Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm one hell of a nerd, and today we're going to be talking about all the different changes that are going on with D&D in the 2024 Player's Handbook. We're going to be reacting. I haven't seen these videos. They're all in the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube page, and we're just going to go through one of them at a time and see if we liked some of the changes, we don't like some of the changes, and where D&D seems to be headed, because they seem to have said that there's a lot of changes that have happened to the game that they're putting in this 2024 handbook, but we haven't actually seen what some of those changes are, except for in these videos. So, with that, let's get started. So we are going to be starting here at the new feats and backgrounds and species for Player's Handbook, which is all character origins and whatnot. So, let's go ahead and get this started, shall we?
Your character now. You will first choose your class, the most important choice you make for your character, and then you will flesh out your character's origin. And so we like to think of it as you might decide, I want to be a fighter, or I want to be a rogue, or a cleric, or a wizard. And then you think, well, how did I get there? What did I do before I was a member of that class? And what do I know about my character's childhood? And so it's when you start pondering those questions that you turn toward
that we already deal with. They're things that are in session 0 all the time. So I'm a little, I don't know how to feel about this yet. I'll be honest with you.
The character origins chapter. And you will essentially be going back in time in your character's backstory. So again, you start with your class, then you'll ponder, well, what was my character's background? And background is all about not only what you did prior to becoming an adventurer, but also where you did it. You know, were you a sailor? Were you a criminal? Were you an acolyte in a temple? Were you a sage? And then you keep going back in time in your character's origin to your birth. And that's when you then ponder your character's species. And your species choice and your background choice together combine to give you a number of critical game capabilities that will really help flesh out your character. Background has far more weight for your character now than it did in the 2014 rules. People in the Unearthed Arcana process got to see a preview of this, where in addition to giving you proficiencies, as backgrounds previously did, backgrounds also now all give you a feat at first level. They also determine ability score bonuses for you when you make your character. And these are ability score bonuses that really are rising up out of how your character spent their time prior to embarking on the wilds of adventure. And those two things in particular, the ability score adjustments that backgrounds bring, as well as the feat, mean your background will have an effect on your character for your entire career.
So I wonder if that means we're doing away with I mean, it would make sense. It would definitely be in line with a lot of what D&D wants to be doing, it seems like, where they're taking the attributes that you get for racial attribute bonuses, and they're taking them out of the race or species, and putting it attached to the background, which I kind of feel like I like, honestly. Like, that kind of makes sense. But also the racial features, like, I get why, like, people are so weird about them. Because just because you are an orc doesn't mean you're strong per se, but I feel like those are always session 0 conversations you can have with your DM and, like, fix those. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of, like, changing things just to be more politically correct. I think that if you want to do things differently, you can talk with your DM and you can do that. And if you have a DM that's unwilling to work with you in that, it's I mean, your DM shit, and you should find a new one if I'm being honest. But like I have a great player in my game who is from a barbaric tribe, and he was strong, but he didn't want to be strong. And then one day he woke up and he wasn't strong anymore. He had lost all of his muscle mass, but he had picked up the ability to entertain, the ability to play music. And it there's some backstory elements I'm not going to get into just in case he watches this, but that's what he wanted to do. And that was this cool little thing we have going on, where he's trying to figure out what happened, right? And so, like, yeah, that's something we came up with. Even though he is a character, his race by technicality gives him strength, we said, no, your character's going to get this instead, and this is why. You know what I mean? So I feel like those conversations can always be had, but at the same time, because I mean, let's be honest, there are some things that are genetic traits that travel through a lot of like races and whatnot. And it's not necessarily because of the race, it's because of your family genetics. I don't know. That's such a weird topic, and I kind of hate it. I guess in some ways, if you take the bonus statistics off of the race and you put them on the background, this conversation doesn't need to be had. So I guess, hey, that's a plus right there. Is just not having to have
that
this
was something
weird
that
conversation.
was not necessarily the case in 2014 backgrounds, except for perhaps the proficiencies you got. Right, you would still enjoy those throughout your career. But now there are more parts of your character that are forever affected by your character's background. Now, to support the use of feats.
Side note though, unless they nerf feats dramatically, getting a feat right out of the gate is wild. I know so many people who are going to abuse that, looking at you, Riley, who are going to abuse that into a whole new level. So I hope that some things, you know, things are a little different. You know what I mean? Maybe they do something, you know, I don't know. We'll see.
At first level, we have now divided feats up into categories, because we don't want
the
first level character to be plunged into the deep end of feat pool. We want you to be able to sample feats and to have that sampling be curated so that
we can just take some time to look at these characters and say that they're very cool characters, and the fact that they're trying to shift to newer looking characters is just really cool. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, the whole being in a wheelchair thing, I feel like is a little bit of a pandering thing, but it's also cool, right? But like, this is a guy who's using like a fucking crowbar. And he looks like he's out of like noir fantasy New York or something. That's kind of a different take for sure on D&D, and I kind of like that.
The feat you get from your background is from a special selection of feats that are appropriate for a starting character. And so those feats are now in a category called origin feats, appropriately enough, because you get them as a part of your character origin. Now,
that makes it way more balanced.
In that category, later on, if you decide to go deeper into feats, you could potentially choose other origin feats for your character as well. But to start, each person gets just one origin feat that's provided by their background, in addition to the proficiencies your background is providing, as well as the ability score adjustments. Now, those ability score adjustments to me are really juicy because of the flexibility that we provide. And this is a flexibility that goes beyond anything that we previewed in Unearthed Arcana. So what we now do in each background is we provide 3 ability
He totally just
options.
looked at the book.
And then you as a player decide, am I going to put +2 in one of those 3, and you choose which of the 3, and then +1 in one of the other 2, or am I going to do +1 in all 3? So here's an example.
That's
Acolyte,
cool.
if you decided your character, whatever class you're a part of, spent their formative years serving in a temple in some capacity, you could choose Acolyte. And the Acolyte background tells you that
decision
the 3 abilities that you have the option to adjust are intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And you have total freedom in which of those you decide gets the +2, which one gets a +1, or if you maybe don't want to make that choice and just give +1 to all 3.
Right.
We did this because we want backgrounds to interlock with as many appropriate classes as possible. Previously, when we previewed this,
the only issue I foresee with this whole +1 into multiple stats and having that choice is I definitely feel like min-maxers are almost always going to choose the +1 to 3 stat. That's a terrible frame to be stepped on.
approach to background.
There we go. Let's just have a different frame to stop on. It's definitely going to be like a super min-max thing to always take the +3, 1 in each stat, and just take whatever background is your stats' best stuff. You know what I mean? So like if you want to care about, let's say, dexterity, constitution, and willpower, right? You would have, if that's what your class cared about, you're gonna always pick to take those 3 +1 abilities instead of a +2 and then a +1. I feel like maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like it's gonna be crazy. The other thing I wanted to mention is the origin feats. Really cool idea. I don't think you should be able to get origin feats past character creation. I think unless you have some crazy thing happen, like with not being a goblin and then being back to our original self, like that's the only way I feel like you should be able to change those origin feats. I feel like they definitely should be tied to your character inherently and your origin. I just hope that they make sure to, I know they've been play testing this a lot, but I hope they play tested it a lot and make sure that it, in combination with your race choice or species choice and your possible feats that you can get later on, don't make the game really, really, really broken. Because again, I'm not a fan of min-maxing, and I know there's a lot of people out there because they treat this game like it's Skyrim or whatever, and that can definitely end up in a weird place. So, you know.
Of them providing ability score adjustments. One of the downsides of the playtest version is it kind of hard-locked the backgrounds to specific classes.
Yeah.
And we did not want to proceed with that because in some ways that was recreating the exact problem that we were getting away from 2014 Species, because in 2014 these ability score adjustments.
I just really, like, I just want to take the time to just say, I hate just why are we changing it to species? Like, I hate political correctness. I hate political correctness. And there are some times where it is okay, sometimes when it is justified, sometimes when I feel like personally that, you know, I should step up and have some political correctness. And that's usually with pronouns, just because, like, I should call people what makes them feel comfortable. Because why wouldn't I? You know, why would I want to make somebody uncomfortable just because I don't want to say one word? that has nothing to do with me. That's stupid. So pronouns, I'm cool with being politically correct on, but something as simple as like race and species, it's the same fucking thing. You just want to get away from the word race because it has a bad connotation to the real world, first, and second, to the fact that that's what it used to be, and that's when it was all fucked up, and everybody was like, oh, you're a racist because orcs are black people, and, all black people aren't always strong, because yes, that is a conversation that did happen, or drow, which were another synonym for a black folk. I never looked at it that way. I never understood why it had to be looked through that lens, but people started doing it, and Wizards is trying to be politically correct and get away from it. That just bothers me. It just bothers me, man. Ugh. Just hate it. Anyways, the problem I have with what I think he's about to say, and I should probably just listen, but I feel like I am trying to make this more of a transformative content, you know what I mean? I feel like if he's about to say that you get to choose what those are no matter what, it's just bullshit. You're just asking for, you're just asking for, again, min-maxers to just abuse it. So I don't know. I don't know.
It's existed inside the playable species, and one of the reasons we moved it out of there is we didn't like how that drove certain species to be combined with certain classes. We wanted people to feel more free to mix and match. And so here, rather than just recreate the same restriction,
it wouldn't be the same
we
restriction.
now do have a little bit of a restriction, but you have tremendous amount of flexibility within it. I mean, because you have 3 of the game's 6 abilities to play with, no matter which background you choose. And really, it's just which 3 changes from background to background. And
okay, so they are still keeping it.
There was a
each background has 3 attributes,
character building options,
or ability scores that it
works
with.
Backgrounds.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
To support many different character builds. Like if I jump ahead in the chapter to the guide, for instance, the guide's 3 abilities are dexterity, constitution, and wisdom. That combo means the guide is actually a happy background for a number of different classes, particularly because everyone is happy to have constitution. Really, any background that has constitution as one of the 3 will work with pretty much any class. And this was something very much on our minds as we created these trios in each of the backgrounds to really make sure that the 16 backgrounds in this book provide a huge array of character building options. And now if someone wants to go beyond the 16 background options in the Player's Handbook, the new Dungeon Master's Guide provides guidance under the DM's supervision on creating additional backgrounds. But in the Player's Handbook itself, there are these 16 to choose from. There are a few backgrounds that share the feats that they offer, because we did not want to force people to choose a certain background
because that was optimal
for certain feats. Now, there are a number of feats that are, only one background offers that feat. But there are a few, and Alert is a great example of them, where the feat is offered by more than one background.
Right. Skilled is a similar one as well.
Yes, particularly because the skilled feat is so open-ended. All of these combinations of options, the feats, the ability score adjustments, the proficiencies, also the starting equipment that the backgrounds provide, mean that each background is a package of very distinct options from the other backgrounds. Of course, you can dig deeper into feats if you decide to at higher levels. When everyone reaches 4th level, they get ability score increase, just as they did in the 2014 Player's Handbook. But ability score increase is now itself a feat. And just like in 2014, you have the option of taking that feat or selecting a different one. And because we now have given everyone a taste of feats at first level, we wanted to make sure that this book had more feats available, which is why there are 75 of them in this book, so that if you do decide to go into the fun customization world of feats, there's more there for you to play with, and the feats have all been enhanced, in some cases completely redesigned. And then there's the whole other half of your origin, your species.
Right, and we've got a lot of new things in the species. We've got new additions. So the orc has joined, Goliaths have joined, and
The Aasimar. And those 3 brand new options, and they join, of course, classic options like human, elf, halfling, gnome. The tiefling, the dragonborn are still with us as well. And every one of these species has been revisited, has been enhanced. A number of these enhancements people got to see in the Unearthed Arcana process, with like the dragonborn having an enhanced breath weapon, and then when they get to higher level, even gaining the ability to sprout wings and fly. And even humans and halflings have been revisited and in some of their traits redesigned.
The Dragonborn are super Dragonborn. The Goliaths are very Goliath, because now they're tied to giants. Not surprisingly, if you have the background being a cloud giant in your heritage, then you can kind of, Misty Step away, teleport away, because you're more of a trickster. But it's
just the thought of having a giant just Misty Step away like it ain't shit is just kind of funny to me.
All based off like Hill Giant, Storm, Stone. All of it has different abilities that you can choose from.
And that is a part of the theme that we had with the species, which was to really lean into the fantasy of each one. This is why dwarves now have tremor sense that they can use a certain number of times a day, where we, again, wanting to lean harder into what is the resonant fantasy of each of these peoples, and part of that with dwarves, with their connection to the earth. Well, let's give them this really remarkable ability a certain number of times per day to sense things through the earth itself. Their dark vision has also gotten better. Dwarves and orcs both have dark vision out to 120 feet in the new Player's Handbook, really driving home that certain peoples have spent, at least their ancestors have spent more time underground than some of the other peoples. Humans, I mentioned, have been redesigned with the origin feats in the game in mind, because now if you choose human, you get to choose an additional origin feat for your character. So you'll not only get the origin feat of your background,
what's up, man?
Also one of your choice. And humans now each day start off with heroic inspiration.
That's right.
Also, people will see that
heroic inspiration. I wonder what that is.
We want each species to really
Timbuk
bring
says it's just
its
like
own fantasy to
inspiration,
life.
but
They're very
not from a bard.
asymmetrical in how we have designed them. So some of them have choice points in them, where you mentioned the Goliath earlier, where you might be picking a type of giant that you're associated with, or Dragonborn have their different breath weapon options. But then we have others like the halfling, the dwarf, the orc, where there aren't choice points like that because their fantasy didn't demand that in the design, but it's also because we did not want every single one to have the same complexity level. Just as our classes and subclasses have
people
different
who are
complexity levels, the species have different complexity levels as well.
So we talk about a lot about meeting that fantasy, that wish fulfillment. Mechanically, that's...
So, Damon, I play D&D on Saturdays. I have a group of people that I DM for. I will be
done as well in action economy. The Goliath, being that it is now tied closer to giants, you can get big. Once you hit a certain level, you can go one size larger. But you can do this as a bonus action. You're not taking a full action to have that happen for you. You're just
that something
getting
Goliaths
big
have
and then
access to
possibly
now?
attacking and terrifying a group.
Hold on. I could just pull my player's handbook out behind me, but it's a pain in the ass to get out and then get back in. Let's see. Can't wait to have that changed. Species. Woo. Oh, you are so stupid. There we go. Legacy Goliath. Yeah, you count one size larger. I didn't know that. Oh wait, just when determining capacity. So I guess either there's a new thing that they're adding with this, or that's included later on, maybe? Wait, I'm so confused. Whatever. Alright, it's fine. It's fine. I don't understand why I can't access this stuff. Because it says it's part of the player's handbook, but it's not a part of the player's handbook. Oh wait, that is Mordenkind. Oh well, whatever. Okay, back to the video.
Dragonborn is the same thing, and this was a change that we saw in a previous book, but you can now use your breath weapon. Not only does it get more powerful over time, but if you take the attack action, one of those attacks can be the breath weapon.
Absolutely.
So you're not sacrificing, if you're a fighter,
Oh,
a
that's
bunch of
so
your attacks,
cool.
you know, that could have been
Okay, so
possibly
this
more
has got to be
effective
new.
by using the breath weapon. You're just layering it on to what you can already do.
And
That's so
another
cool.
example of us
Having
really
races have
deepening the
more
fantasy and
access
giving
to like
people more
abilities
options
per
is in the
se, I think
Aasimar,
is the way to go,
where
because
before you had to pick
you can be
a
born with an
single
ability and just
celestial
choose not to
revelation,
use it.
and that was true.
You know
for
what I
your
mean? But you
character
still have
forever.
access to it.
You now get to change that choice every time you use it, because we figured, well, an Aasimar who is descended from celestials sure might have some days where they're in the mood to shine with light, but they might also have some days where they're more on the vengeful end of the celestial spectrum and choose one of the other celestial revelation options.
So significant changes to species. We've got several more species to work with, and a lot of layered on abilities that kind of hit that, again, that wish fulfillment of like, this is what I want. I want to be a big character, a big Goliath. I can get big. Bonus action, I'm huge. Now I'm just going to pummel.
The character creation chapter in this book includes a sidebar that explains how to use backgrounds and species from older books. Because over the last decade, there have been several different approaches to where you get your ability score increase, do you get a feat or not. We have a rule in the character creation chapter on how to use backgrounds or species from other books that don't appear in this book. So any species or background that appears in this book that also appeared in an earlier book, the version in the new Player's Handbook is now the canonical version. But if there's, say, a species or background in an older book that is not in the new Player's Handbook and you would still like to use it, you can. And again, the character creation chapter provides guidance on how you can do that.
That's good that they're making it backwards compatible like that.
Pre-order right now on D&D
Chat,
Beyond.
just take a second and look at how beautiful this fucking Player's Handbook is. I need this shit on my shelf, right there. You can't see, but right there, where all my other D&D stuff is. God, it looks so good. Ah, it looks so good. So good. All right. You know, that kind of gets me excited because obviously there's been a lot of stuff going around. You know, Wizards of the Coast has been real weird. Real weird lately on all of their games just because I guess Hasbro is just draining them for everything they're worth. But I'll tell you, man, this is good. This is good. We like to see this. I hope they keep on this path of giving more player agency and character creation and kind of just, you know, figuring it out. All right, so that has been my thoughts on the 2024 Player Handbook background origin stuff. We're going to be doing some more of these later on, and they'll be coming out here over the next few days. But until then, again, my name is Daniel. I'm one hell of a nerd, and we'll see you in the next one.